But we'll figure it out. We always do.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. It's 10:02. At this time, we're going to call the meeting to order, and we would please ask you to stand if you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance, and we'll also stand for a moment of silence for the 100,000 Americans around the country who have been lost to COVID-19. So if you would please say with us, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. At this time, we'll accept any public comment for items not appearing on today's agenda. If individuals would like to make their public comments for items on the agenda, they're welcome to now. We want to respect their time today. But is there any items that are that'd be like for public comment? Okay, thank you. And what we ask you, sir, if you'd be willing to just state your name and municipality you reside in, and this microphone will allow you to be picked up by CNET. But we thank you for being here today.
My name's Dave Schultz. I live in Howard, PA. Today, I just wanted to ask you a question, County Commissioners. Did you take an oath of office? Yes? Okay. Then how can you sit here and maintain your oath today when you violated it last week? According to the paperwork that I've read through and the Pennsylvania Constitution, you have violated our constitutional rights under Section 1, Section 2, Section 3, Section 7, Section 20, Section 25, which also includes 26 according to the amendment of 1967, and also Section 27. If you'd like me to read those, I will. Also, Pennsylvania Statute Title 16 PS Counties, Section 403, Oath of Office. Any person refusing to take said oath or affirmation shall forfeit his office. Any person who shall be convicted of having sworn or affirmed falsely or having violated said oath of affirmation shall be guilty of perjury, shall be subject to such penalties as are provided therefore in the act, the approved June 24th, 1931, Pamphlet Law 872, known as the Penal Code, and be forever banned, disqualified from holding any office of trust, profit within the Commonwealth. I just want to let you folks know today, here's my face. I'm not hiding from you. You guys broke the violation, you violated your oath, and I am going to the DA today. I've already contacted him this morning, and we will be filing charges. So I just want you to know up front, I'm not hiding from you. You guys have screwed this county, every business owner, every worker. You've destroyed this country. You've destroyed this county. It's on you. You have nothing to say about that. This is your opportunity to defend yourself. Justify what you've done, and you have nothing. You guys make me sick. Have a good day.
Okay, thank you, sir. We appreciate your comments, and thank you for taking the time to be here today. Is there any other public comments at this time? Okay, all right. Moving on to our meeting minutes from our meeting on Tuesday, May 19th of 2020. Would there be a motion to approve those minutes?
Motion to approve the minutes from the May 19th, 2020 Board of Commissioners meeting.
I will second that.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. As I alerted my fellow colleagues over this weekend, yesterday, We did, as many of you have heard and know, we did hold a meeting via telephone on Friday to discuss in a very short amount of time the request from the governor's office for our feedback for moving Center County from yellow to green. And so it's at my urging that we would adopt minutes in some way, shape, or form. The way that I would be most comfortable with them, and this would be after reading Act 15 of 2020, there's a section in there that is 5741, Section D, which would be the draft minutes of a meeting called under exigent circumstances without advance notice to the public, which we did not give due to the fact that we were unable to in such a short amount of time, to address any issue related to the governor's disaster emergency declaration related to COVID-19 shall be posted within 20 days after the meeting or before the next regularly scheduled meeting, whichever is earlier. And so essentially, I would think that under that act, we would have to satisfy it by approving these minutes and having them posted publicly. If there was any questions about that, we can discuss them, but that would be my point of view on how we do that. I think it's important to be transparent. The events of Friday have been, a lot of questions have been asked about them, and I think it's best that during this time that we be as transparent as possible. If there were any concerns about the public not being able to be a part of that meeting, we're discussing that on the agenda today, the decision to go green or stay yellow. So that's a part of the discussion. That's going to be an action item today that we're actually going to formally take action on. So if the public would like to comment on it, and many of you have, that's an opportunity today. So, but again, I think it's important for us to have a record of this in place. So I look for any discussion related to that, and if we could look for a motion. But if there's any questions or discussion before that, we could certainly do that.
I'd like to probably at least have an opportunity to review them. I don't know that I want to approve them this morning, but certainly entertain that. So I don't know what action you're asking for, but.
Sure, we can put them on a consent agenda for next Thursday. We have a meeting on Thursday if you'd like to do that. I did send them out last night. I know
Right.
I
I just didn't get a chance to totally study them.
No, that's totally understandable. So we could move them to the consent agenda for Thursday, so there's an opportunity then to approve them. That could
They
be,
would be in a draft form.
they're currently in a draft form, and we would not be circulating them until the agenda would go out on Wednesday for the meeting, so, yeah.
And I'd just like a clear declaration from the county solicitor. We had less than 90 minutes notice from the governor. There wasn't enough time to notify the public. I'm wondering if perhaps this is better classified as an executive session as opposed to a public meeting. So I'd like a clear response from the solicitor, but I'm very happy today to talk about what happened in
Sure,
the meeting.
absolutely, yep.
And how we went about the decision-making process under short notice.
Sure. Okay.
Sorry.
Oh,
My mic's on.
is that better? Okay. Okay, so at this point, did you want to have that now? I didn't want to.
No, I think we could probably, isn't that better, I don't know, isn't that better to be had under the COVID-19 planning response section? Because it's not germane to the minutes.
The discussion, yes,
Yeah.
but we're in the minutes section, and these would be minutes, so that's why
Right.
it was. But no, if you wanted to get any feedback from the solicitor publicly today, we could do that on the minutes. If you wanted to do that, if you don't want to, we can always do that later.
Well, Betsy, did you have a chance to look at it a bit more?
Yes, I looked at this situation, and I understand Act 15 of 2020 does provide a lot of parameters. I think the devil is always in the details when we talk about the ability to notice the public or not. I certainly think that you can proceed down that path if you choose to, but in my mind, it was an executive session. I mean, the three of you met. You did not deliberate. I mean, there was no decision that came out of it, and the concerns that were raised out of it, from my understanding, was largely related to personnel issues, election workers, personnel. And so therefore, I think it's more safely characterized that way than calling it a public meeting. There was no, and this is the devil in the language, right? The legislature wanted to make it possible under COVID, especially under the red, to make it possible to have meetings. Keep in mind that under that you are under the county code, boroughs are under a borough code, and townships are under a township first class, second class code. And one of the interesting things is under the borough code, they are not allowed to meet remotely. That is not true of our townships. That's not true of you as county commissioners. You have a lot more flexibility. So part of the reasoning behind the legislation was to enable that sort of remote participation by members and still have a quorum. So I would suggest that you not call it a public meeting, because I don't think it was public, and I don't think there was time to make it public in the sense of what you had. And the emergency part of the declaration doesn't necessarily cover this kind of an emergency. That is, this was made an emergency on you because the state chose to wait till the last minute to call you. Had they called you the day before, you would have had a public meeting. You could have discussed this in session and had a conversation. But they gave you such a short period of time. I'm not sure the legislature sees that as an emergency in their context. I think they were thinking more of, no disrespect, but like fire emergency, something that happens because you can't control the situation. So it is true as commissioners, you were not in control of the situation. But it's not true that the legislature, the governor's office couldn't have contacted you sooner. So I understand your questions, Mr. Higgins, and I think it's well-founded. I don't think it hurts you either way. With respect to minutes, you know, you would have to, if you do call it a public meeting, you would have to make them available. And I would suggest that even if you are still considering the minutes, that you post them as draft minutes. And you do that today, because the way the act reads, it's your next meeting. You don't have to prove them. They are simply a draft set of minutes. The purpose, by the way, behind that is because a lot of municipalities only meet once a month. And if they don't publish their minutes of the meeting that the public can't get to, the public doesn't know what's going on. So that's why that's in there. And, you know, we've got a lot of municipalities, the smaller ones, that don't even have the capacity, as you know, to have a website and post minutes and do that. And so it's a challenge to be. The blessing for you all, and most of us in Center County, is that we do have CNET, great resource, and most of our municipalities that have done quick meetings or had to do things have been able to use CNET as a vehicle. So I don't know if that helps, if you have questions.
Any follow-ups to that, or?
Right, so solicitor says it's really more of an executive session because actually we didn't make any hard decisions even during the meeting. We asked the governor a question. So generally, would we tend to publish minutes from this type of executive session?
Not generally. I mean, we don't generally publish minutes of executive session because the purpose for having the conversation is that you are convening in private to discuss an issue, usually personnel issues. That was part of your conversation, I know. And the purpose under this, the courts require you to state your when you met, state your purpose and confirm that there were no decisions that were made. And obviously, the more details you want to provide, there are things that you said, and I think, Mark, you even pointed that out, that you're going to sort of have this conversation now in public. It's just a matter that you were not in a situation at that point in time to have it in public. That is, you were on a phone call. You had 45 minutes to respond to an inquiry, and it was, what's your thoughts? I mean, it's not like somebody was saying to you, you need to take official action and you need to do something. It's pretty clear to me, having read through both the governor's executive orders and what has transpired, that this was not a Center County decision. You were asked to provide your opinions and thoughts, but you're not the decision makers here. And I think that's important for us all to recognize.
At least I can speak for myself. I walked into this, or I shouldn't say walked, I was sitting in my vehicle, and I was expecting more of an informational, here we are, conversation. And I would agree that it probably best fits itself as an executive session at that point. How we deal with that is.
Well, I think if it's classified as an executive session, I just want to make sure that we document it as a meeting, because I think it was an important discussion, whether it was a informational, whether it was executive, whether it was a remote public meeting that was called under emergency circumstances. We should classify it as something so that we have it and then we move forward from it. So if we do it as an executive session, that would give us obviously the opportunity for Margaret to report on it, what it was, and then if there is a decision at a later time to approve minutes of the meeting. We could maybe look a little bit further into that to see what precedent that sets to us. I just wanted to acknowledge my strong feeling that it's good for us to have that on the record, because there's been things that have said about what we talked about. There's been things that said about what we hadn't talked about in that meeting, and I think having the record as closely as we can monitor it would be good. We did not have the opportunity to have somebody taking minutes during that meeting, because I think we did appreciate the fact it was more of an executive session or discussion, informal discussion. But I think going forward, what we should do is we should, when we begin a meeting of that nature, either have it recorded via some of the options we have with our new software we have, or if it's we have Natalie on the line to do that. I think we can learn some lessons from this, and so I think that it's good to even when we get these type of calls, it's not going to be the last one, that we just take a pause and from a strictly transparency minutes related standpoint, how we document those. I would be comfortable at this time as if there are executive sessions, and then potentially at a future meeting, if we'd want to take action on minutes after further solicitor review. I just would like to know as well a little bit finer detail about what that would mean. But as of today, I'm comfortable with just having them reported as an executive session. I can work with that. Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to follow the solicitor's suggestion.
Okay. All right. Thank you. All right. Moving into proclamation. Proclamation number 14 of 2020. We're going to be proclaiming May of 2020 as Foster Care Awareness Month in Center County. We know that there are 90 children and youth in foster care during this period. I think maybe need another recharge here. So.
Bad battery.
Yeah, it's blinking.
Oh,
Blinking. Thank you.
got timing on that.
Turn it off.
Cindy, my goodness. Stephanie, are you okay? You good at the audio? Okay, thank you. All right. So, again, 90 children and youth in foster care in homes throughout Center County and across the state. There are so many foster families that have worked with our Children and Youth Service Office throughout the years who have given decades upon decades of their sacrifice to open their homes and to adopt and to foster. And during this pandemic, the challenges that provides with schools being closed and some daycares being closed as well has put an even more difficult burden on them. So our thanks this year is triple-fold, quadruple-fold for all the work that they're doing during this very difficult time. So again, Foster Care Awareness Month, the month of May, and I know we have a few short days, but they've been doing activities within COIS to celebrate this and to recognize all the hard work that these people put in, day day out, and for the kids as well, to keep them safe.
Next year, when they have the Foster Parent Appreciation Banquet, hopefully it'll be twice as
That's right.
Yes.
twice as great.
That's right. Absolutely. But please, I'll open the floor to other comments on this.
We have a comment. You want to say anything first?
No, go ahead.
I just want to express our genuine appreciation for the foster families in Center County. I know some of them have been active now for a couple of decades and have, if we count short-term temporary fostering, have fostered, I think, one family that's pushing 100 young people. So wonderful work by that group and by our Children and Youth Department. Everybody should have a home. Thanks for those who step up and help provide that.
I think you're probably referring to the Chronister family down in Julianne, who if there is ever a Mount Rushmore of foster care here in Center County, it would be Ron and his wife. They've just been involved in the program and not only fostered children, adopted children, but probably most importantly mentored so many other families as they've gone through this process. And it's integral to the future of so many children to have great parents and great role models to guide them. And there were just so many folks. I would be remiss if I started naming names, but the Orphan Care Alliance is another group of faith-based folks in the community that have made a huge difference in the future of so many children, and they've built such a network of support around the families that they have that it really is. It's a model for for us, and I think a model for the whole country to emulate. So a big shout out to all the folks that make that happen, the folks at Fix and the folks at CUIS that all make it all work so well. And we're always looking for more. So there's the recruiting. Yeah, contact our CYS folks if you have any interest in learning more about becoming a foster parent. So,
Thank you, Commissioners, thank you. Again, this would be Foster Care Awareness Month of 2020 in May, and this would be urging all residents to recognize this very worthy cause, to volunteer time, talent, and energy on behalf of the children in foster care, foster parents, and Center County. So would we have a motion to that effect?
Enthusiastic motion to adopt proclamation number 14 of 2020, proclaiming May as Foster Care Awareness Month in Center County.
I will second that.
We moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 The motion is carried. We'll move into our COVID-19 planning and response, and we'll start with personnel. Margaret.
Thank you. This morning, we have a request from the Public Defender's Office for your consideration of reinstatement of initially 3 employees. However, the Public Defender is asking that we table item number 1 and number 3, and for your consideration to approve the reinstatement of Kate Hall, investigator, from full-time furlough to regular full-time status effective May 25th, tomorrow.
Would you like us to table the first and third items?
First and third items, yes.
Or just indefinitely?
To be determined. Mhm.
Just double checking the numbering, there's actually something showing up in number 4 at the top of the.
That's a
page.
typographical error.
Well, I'm sure it's, things are put on, pulled off. Okay,
Yep.
that's why you're calling it the third item.
Yep.
Okay.
So we'll make the motion to table items number 1 and 3 under Public Defender Personnel.
I will second that.
Been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion on tabling those 2 items? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Would there be a motion to approve item 2?
Motion to approve item number 2 under Public Defender for Personnel to reinstate Kate Hall, investigator.
I will second it.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Any further discussion on that? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Motion is carried. Okay, thank you, Margaret. So going into reopening Center County, Commissioner Dershowitz over the weekend had requested that this item be put on the agenda, so we will turn it over to him for some conversation, and then I think we're all going to weigh in and have some discussion.
Well, I believe that it is in the interest of Center County and certainly in the interest of a lot of the elements of our population to consider a petition to Governor Wolf. We've all had an opportunity to think about some of the issues involving green. I mean, on Friday, I was probably as amazed as anybody that there was even a conversation about us turning green. I thought that, frankly, I would have thought that would have been maybe a month or so away. And I was actually glad to hear that the governor was considering us. I know there's been a lot of conversation about the reopening, and we've had the opportunity to follow through with some of our concerns, and I would at this time offer the consideration of petition to Governor Wolf allowing Center County to move to the green phase of the reopening effective Friday, May 29th, 2020, following all COVID-19 health and safety guidelines as set forth by the Pennsylvania Department of Health and the Centers for Disease Control. And
Would you make that as a motion?
I will make that as a motion.
Is there a second?
I will second that motion, but would like some more discussion.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's been moved and seconded, so we will open the floor for discussion.
Any
Okay.
discussions? I would like to thank the hundreds of Center County residents who contacted me by phone, email, and social media over the last 3 days. There are many opinions on all sides of this issue, as Commissioner Dershowitz mentioned. I wish there had been several days for the commissioners to solicit opinions on moving from yellow to green phase. However, the governor's staff gave the Center County commissioners less than 90 minutes to provide feedback to the governor, providing a move from yellow to green phase. Based on the information we had at the time, we were concerned about our poll workers, as the solicitor mentioned, and an increased possibility of the election becoming a super spreader event if the county moved to the green phase before the primary election. This could cause significant health issues for some citizens and return us to yellow status. We weighed this viewpoint against a 5-day reduction in some of the stresses that everyone, especially our local businesses, have been under, and we did talk about local businesses during the discussion. We asked the governor if he would consider delaying the move to green phase until Wednesday, the 3rd, the day after the election. If not, we were kind of asking the question if, what would the next day be, perhaps Friday, June 5th, if that might be a possibility. After the governor's press conference on Friday, I was able to read updated information about the green phase. Many citizens began to contact me. Some of those who contacted me were doctors, nurses, and other healthcare professionals. I thank them for their time and knowledge. I spoke with some knowledgeable healthcare professionals for as long as 45 minutes. Their feedback was invaluable. Based on their opinions, we're emphasizing some steps during the voting process and improving policies and procedures for poll workers. Others I spoke with included small business owners, and in many cases I've known them personally for many years. Very shortly before stepping into this meeting, I received an email from a gentleman I've known for about 25 years who was quite emotional, and I really feel for him. Even within our small business community, there is a wide diversity of opinion. I would like to thank everyone who reached out to me and communicated their opinions on this issue. And so after careful reconsideration, I do support the board urging Governor Wolf to consider moving Center County to the green phase on Friday, May 29th, following all COVID-19 health and safety guidelines as set forth by the PA Department of Health and the Center for Disease Control. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any other comments?
No, go ahead.
Okay,
No,
sure,
no.
sure. Okay, sure. So on Sunday, I had also released a statement that you can find on my Facebook page. It's a lengthy statement, but then also a brief statement as well. I don't want to go through each of the points that I made on there. I just wanted to kind of focus this and reframe it, where one of the things that I think I also want to offer to the governor, I would hope that we can get consensus on this, is since Center County does not have a county health department, unlike many other counties, I don't believe that we should be a part of the decision-making process of where counties go in terms of what phase or color we're in. I think going forward, we would like a heads up. We would like today we're going to announce, but we're not situated with that focus in mind of the health and the data, and we also do not hold it. They've been partnering with Carnegie Mellon, who's been putting out great numbers there. They obviously have the Pennsylvania Department of Health that is working closely within Center County, but is not something that I believe should be with us going forward. I think also one of the things that complicated it on that specific day was there were other individuals prior to us that were notified that we were going to be going to green. And so those individuals, upon learning that we were reconsidering that and looking to maybe not go to green, all hell broke loose. And within this pandemic, this 100-year flood, this 100-year tsunami, this 100-year carnage, it's important that we have as much partnership as possible. And so I felt like what happened on Friday did not help us in this pandemic, but it hurt us. And I would ask the citizens of Center County to recognize that the decision that I came to was based upon the health and safety of the people who work our polls, the people who are going to be voting, and then long-term ramifications if there was spread that occurred on Election Day. That was my main concern. After talking with the Department of Health, and the governor's office was very helpful with getting me their contact information and speaking with some folks in the Department of Health, I had a very good conversation with them about their decision-making process, about the data they were seeing, about their knowledge of the potential of community spread on Election Day. But after talking through all the steps that our elections office have been entirely taking, the fact that the Department of State is going to be sending voter protection kits that we received that has hand sanitizer, gloves, masks, you name it, that's going to help keep our our poll workers safe. That brought me to a comfort and an ease. I think also as well, many people pointed out the great job that our Office of Elections has done on vote by mail. We're probably going to have more people vote by mail than we are going to have people show up on Election Day. And whether or not your preference on voting by mail or voting in person, that's not the important thing, but that is an important consideration where there's not going to be as many people showing up. So lastly, I just want to say that I, as well as probably Commissioner Higgins and Dersham, got many calls, many emails, many social media messages. Some were helpful and were constructive criticism. And I wanted to highlight one because I think it was well-meaning and it was just very, very helpful to see. And again, it brought me back to my senses on this, and I think informed me with requesting that we're not part of the final decision-making process, because a lot of things go into the sausage making in Harrisburg, and I don't necessarily want to stick our fingers in the end before it comes out the meat grinder. So, but the point was made by this individual, and I called them and spoke for quite a bit, was he said, well, I understand your reasoning, and he agreed the election might be a problem. He said, I still disagree with the decision. I feel this request and the governor supporting it and the Secretary of Health completely undermines the entire logic of the system. The governor had made a strong argument that decisions in Harrisburg are data-based and supported by evidence. When some counties said that they don't trust the science by moving from red to, before the data supported the change, the governor reacted strongly and basically forced them to comply. Now we have a county saying that we don't trust the science and want to stay yellow. So it makes the actions look political and inconsistent, even if it's well-intentioned. I do believe we had well-intentioned decisions, but it undermined the process. So the effect that had psychologically and mentally, when people saw on Friday the governor laughing off the fact that we wanted to move into the green phase and saying that we were going to stay because, quote, we weren't ready, I don't think fully captured that, and I appreciate the stress that he's under and the decisions he makes. But we were able to have productive dialogue with his staff to let them know that if there wasn't an election, we would have gone to green. I think we all would have agreed we would have gone to green on the 29th, and we were ready for it. Our businesses were ready for it. But the fact that we had a concern about the election was the thing that personally held me up on it. And but so leaving things there in terms of the process and how we go forward, we would hope to be green until vaccine. That's what I believe. Green until vaccine. Let's do that as a community. However, I don't trust the virus. The virus sets the timeline, as Dr. Fauci has said. And as we go forward, if we move back to yellow, if we, God forbid, go to red, from the emails that I saw, from the phone calls that I got, everybody across the whole ideological spectrum, if you have a business, if you're a worker, if you're out of work, everybody is concerned, worried, and scared. Concerned, worried, and scared. And if we admit that and we recognize that as we approach each other and we look out for each other and care for each other, I think that's going to matter a whole great deal as we go into the future. I had emails from business owners that said, please reopen. I had emails from business owners saying, I can wait another week. I think health and safety is more important at this point. Let's wait a week. I had workers saying, I'm ready to get back to work. I want to support my family. I had emails from workers saying, I'm scared to go back. My child has an underlying health issue. I don't want to get them sick. The whole gamut, every opinion was expressed, at least from my standpoint, in the last few weeks. I think it was impactful. I thank everybody for reaching out. But as we go forward, the enemy is the virus. The thing that we need to be working against is the virus. And I do have trust and faith in the people of Center County to make the best decisions and for us to work together as a community. And so I share that, and I thank everybody, again, who reached out. And as we go forward, again, let's stay green until vaccine. So with that, before we take an action.
I just have a couple of things. First of all, I want to clear the record up here on a couple of things. One of them is, I know there's been a lot of questions and a lot of concerns about kind of the nature of this whole process. And I will tell you, and to my fellow commissioners' credit, there was nothing nefarious about anything that occurred. It was genuine concern for not only our poll workers, but the citizens of Center County. And we can agree to disagree on many things. And one of the things that I know was at the forefront of my mind, even after that conversation, and I think I even lobbied them later on in the day to think hard about this thing. But one thing I knew was we would be sitting in this room on Tuesday morning having a discussion and being able to in public have a little bit better input, if you will, and a lot better resources to refer back to than we were when I was sitting in the Ollie's parking lot, eating my lunch, talking on the phone, trying to resolve what I think is, one of the more important items that I've ever addressed as a commissioner. Now, that all being said, it was not helpful the way it was presented at the state level. I'm not going to beat anybody up about that. What was presented and what was discussed were two entirely different things, and it was a little disheartening to me. But that all being said, moving forward, we have a business community in a county to get back to on Friday, and I'm hoping that today's action and making sure that our turning green, if you will, on Friday is in the forefront of everybody's conversation. I will personally call whoever I have to call to make sure that happens, and I'm sure that my fellow commissioners will do the same. Both sides of the aisle in Harrisburg, things are very touchy right now, and there's a lot of angst out there. But this is a good time for everybody to kind of step back and realize that being prudent sometimes is what people are apt to do when they are not sure of a specific answer. And I'm going to leave you with one thought, and it was something that I looked at last week. I wanted to see how many COVID cases were occurring in the nursing homes and skilled nursing facilities and assisted living in Center County. I opened up the Department of Health website, and they have a chart, and they have every, just line after line of, there was not one Center County one represented on there. And I know we have had cases in Center County. So it's almost like having a jigsaw puzzle of 1,000 pieces. You have 3 or 4 pieces, and you're trying to figure out what the jigsaw puzzle looks like. Well, we're up to many more pieces than that. The problem is those pieces are ever changing. And so as we move forward as a community, there's a few things we can do to be smart about this, and we're going to talk about them a little bit later when we talk about the election. We need to stay serious about this. We need to make sure that we continue to wash our hands and we sanitize and we do all the things. Just because we're moving to green doesn't mean that it's going to be a free-for-all in our community. Because the worst thing that could happen, the absolute worst thing, is that we have some sort of outbreak that throws us back into that red phase. Because that sets the whole process into a different gear. So we need to take this seriously. Let's get businesses up. Let's get them running. Let's be smart. Let's be safe. But as a community, let's be sensitive to the fact that we want to go forward and not backward. So I'm going to leave it go at that and just say, as we put the pieces in this jigsaw puzzle and we see how we resolve this, that mindful that there's so much information, disinformation, opinion out there. Let's all move ahead with a little bit of understanding that everybody's in this together and we need to figure out a solution. Green is great, but we need to stay green, and we need to still protect the vulnerable folks in our community. And whether you believe this is just a bad flu or it's the Black Plague, let's treat this like it's the flu then, and use the same common sense, use the same common courtesy that I think needs to exist to keep the vulnerable members of our community safe. So I will leave it go at that.
Thank you, Commissioner. I appreciate it, Steve. Thank you very much. One of the things to note is we had dialogue with the governor's office over the weekend, and I've let my fellow colleagues know that they are, as soon as we take a vote, they're you'll be seeing something later today. I don't.
Hopefully they green light us.
That's
Yeah,
right. That's
that'd
right.
be great.
You will. I think you'll be seeing something shortly about that. So. With that being said, this would now be the time if anybody wanted to have any public comment. We appreciate your patience. If there was anybody here for public comment. I'm not seeing anybody on the phone, so anything you'd like to add? And just for the record, even though it goes without saying, but if you wouldn't to say your name and municipality, please.
Mike Hawbaker, live out in Patton Township. The one thing I'd bring up that, I think the community is here at large to help out the commissioners. So you find you're in shortfall of supplies, needs, or otherwise, we come up to the election. I think if you call on the community, they can be there to help you. So I think the whole community, as you said, wants to get engaged, stay green, as you've said. But you've got some other resources to reach out to. We know you've got your FEMA group here in the state. You've got great people like Jeff Warren out there to help in these situations. But there's others of us who are also willing to help because we want to get back to work, get everybody back on par, and just move forward. We just celebrated Memorial Day, which there are a great deal of sacrifices there also. So not forgetting that, we're not looking to make any more. We just make progress going forward. And I think the community at large, if you ask, they will help unequivocally.
I just want to say, Mike, thank you to you and the whole Glen O. Hawbaker family for offering resources, because Election Day is a big concern for us, and you've been very helpful in providing those resources to make sure that we have what we need. And I know Commissioner Higgins told me earlier about a conversation that he had with some medical professionals this weekend that indicated that one of the things we need to do is wash our hands and sanitize. And you're helpful in that conversation, and that's great.
Yeah, appreciate it, Mike. Thanks for coming and thanks for helping us out.
Thank you for your comments, Mike. Okay, so with no further comments being seen by the public or us, the commissioners, we'll look for a vote. All in favor, say aye.
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 The motion is carried. Okay. Our next item is going to be a contract, and this is for risk management. We'll turn it over to you, Margaret.
Thank you very much. This item is our annual renewal for liability, property, and crime insurance with our Pennsylvania County's risk pool. The total cost is $385,014 for the period of June 1st, 2020 through June 1st, 2021. Just like to make a couple of comments about this item. The amount of our renewal actually represents a 14% increase over last fiscal year. In part, that is due to some increases in the county's property value, a slight increase in our payroll, and the addition of some autos. We also know that we are in the 5th year of our loss history calculations, and so this is going back and taking into account some of the high years we had for claims within that 5-year period. The budget for 2020 includes a $345,000 allocation, approximately. So this is $40,000 more than was budgeted. We also know that at some point toward the end of the year, the risk pool does oftentimes issue back a check to us based on how the risk pool is doing, and so it is possible that differential between what was budgeted and the cost of this renewal will be reduced. But for now, we're looking to renew for June 1st at the amount of $385,014.
Thank you, Margaret. Any questions on this, comments? Okay. We appreciate the context on the rate increase. We know that this is a moving number as we go throughout years, and as you said, we might see decreases going forward once some claims drop off and are paid back, so thank you. All right. Seeing no other questions on this, we'd look for a motion for the next week's consent agenda.
Motion to add the policy renewal through P Corp to next week's consent agenda.
I will second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. The motion has carried. Okay. We have 2 items for grants for elections, and then we have 1 for risk management. So for elections.
Yes, so Tom is going to speak this morning
Okay.
to the election grant, since he will be pulling this documentation together for submission. So he can address the first 2, and I'll address the risk.
So good morning. So for the first 2, I come before you for you to approve submission of these grant applications to the Department of State. The first one is with the CARES Act grant. This time frame is from March 28th, 2020 until December 31st, 2020. And these expenses that would fall under this grant are the increased election expenses arising due to the COVID-19, and also not limited to voter notifications and education, increased costs related to mail-in absentee voting, supplies to mitigate the spread of COVID-19, and then also increased equipment, staffing, training, and other needs under the CARES Act. And then the second grant is related to the HAVA grant, and that is specifically for increased personnel, equipment, and other approved expenditures related to Act 77 of 2019, and the expansion and provision of and administration of election services. It also is related to ransomware and protection and cybersecurity measures and any increased security of voting systems and ballots and increased expenditures and to expand and support vote by mail and other voter services. This grant started December 21st of 2019 and is for a 3-year period. Will run through December 31st, 2022. And again, we'll track all of these expenses, submit these in. These are separate grants, and we'll code them separately and submit those in.
Tom, thank you very much. And we, at our election board meetings, as we've come across additional equipment that we've bought, PPE, and other requirements such as the lovely Dropbox for ballots, that we've been getting a lot of good use out of. Things like that are coming
Right.
into that
Right.
that line item. So we appreciate the
Yeah.
comments tonight.
Yeah.
Today.
Yeah.
Any feedback?
Again, thanks, Tom, for doing all the extra work. I think we're going to have some additional expenses we didn't budget even through last week. We're going to be getting a lot more hand sanitizer, for example, and possibly a lot of hand sanitizer pump containers.
Right.
So
Right.
is there a deadline that we have to get that to you by, or we can roll it up after the election?
Well, the grant submission will be submitted. It's due on May 29th, so you'll approve that today, and then
Oh,
we'll
my.
submit that
Okay.
down. But then all of the expenses, again, there's a time frame on here. It runs, like I said, the one related to the CARES will run through the end of December 2020, so we have to submit that by January of 2021. And then the other one is a 3-year grant, so there's time frame on that. The key is just us tracking it on our end, so.
Any other questions, comments on this? Okay, hearing none, we'll move then for a motion.
Motion to approve submission of the grant applications and agreements to the Pennsylvania Department of State.
All right, been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Tom.
Thanks.
And Margaret, back to you for the risk management item.
Yes, this item is seeking permission to submit a loss prevention grant application to Pennsylvania County's Risk Pool, PCOR, our insurance provider. We are able to submit projects to them for reimbursement, and we have a balance to secure of $10,500. So our projects that would fall under this and allow us to be awarded this money includes hand railings for the stairwell to the Lower Willow Bank parking lot, which is already installed. The purchase of evacuation chairs, 2 evacuation chairs that are located in the courthouse in case of fire and someone, a non-ambulatory individual needing to be evacuated from the courthouse. The purchase of bag valve masks for our probation officers, 22 of those bags, and a reconstruction of a ramp at the MDJ office in Center Hall. It was in need of repair. This grant's covering that. The balance is going to be used, with your approval, for some of our Citrix licenses that were purchased as a result of the move to work at home during COVID-19. The PCOR grant is allowing us to submit items that fall underneath the COVID-19 umbrella, and we've learned from PEMA that the IT expenditures may not be recoverable under the grant for COVID-19. So we're thinking, since that expenditure's already been put out there, that this would be a way to recoup some of that. So that's the proposal.
This amount, for some reason, it seems lower than previous years. Is it a lower
So
amount?
the total is $20,000.
Okay.
And we submitted in 2 parts. The first part was $9,500, and that's been spent. So this is the remaining balance of $10,500.
Yeah.
It's
Thank you.
$20,000 in total.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Margaret on this item? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion to add submission of the grant application in next week's consent agenda.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. We have today's consent agenda. We have 1 capital project, 1 emergency management, and then a grant. Would there be a motion to approve those 3 items?
Motion to approve today's consent agenda.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
We have approved. Okay. We're moving into letters of support, and I would believe Commissioner Higgins, do you have this? Is it Appalachian Food Works? Is that for today? Or?
It is for today.
Okay, sure.
We had awarded $10,000 to Appalachian Food Works to work with our local farmers and restaurants to help bridge that gap. and provide additional jobs here in Center County for agricultural processing. They have a great lead on a grant at the USDA, but it requires $6,250 of local match money. So as our agreement we have with them, they're going to I think they submit the grant application today. It's kind of a tight deadline. But they are proposing to use $6,250 of the dollars we've given them for local match money so that they can secure the grant. And Natalie's got all the hard copy and everything back at the office.
How much was the grant for again?
It would be 4 times the amount, so I think the
okay.
grant's roughly for $25,000.
Were we talking about how much we gave them, Commissioner?
No, I was
No, he
wondering
was
how
wondering
much
how
they
big
were
the grant,
applying
yeah.
for.
The grant's like $25K, which has a local match requirement of $6,250.
So we'll sign that hard copy after we, okay, thank you. Is there any any other questions or discussion on this? All right, we'll leave it to you for the motion then.
All right. Motion to approve the letter of support to Appalachian Food Works for their USDA grant application.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. The motion is carried. Okay. Margaret, we'll turn it over to you for an administrator's report. Okay. Okay, then we'll go down to, if there's no other discussion items for us to consider, we will look for the check run.
Check run in the amount of $666,860.98, much smaller than normal check run size. The check of the week is to Housing Transitions for $20,752.29 for a rapid rehousing program to help persons who are either homeless or have a situation now where they don't have a roof over their heads. I very much appreciate everything that Housing Transitions is doing for us and helping some of the less fortunate in the community or just people who've had a run of hard luck at this point. Motion to approve the check run dated May 22nd.
Been moved and seconded. Any final discussion on the check run? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. Okay. All right, we'll turn it over to Commissioner Dershowitz for any voter registration report.
I do not have a report today, but I would like to emphasize that Election Day is coming up, and it's June 2nd, and that would be a week from today. And as we prepare for that, and we have lots of conversation about preparing for it, a lot of it revolves around keeping everybody safe, and we were going to have continued conversation about acquiring new hand sanitizer and new PPE products to provide not only to our poll workers but also the folks that come in to vote in person. I find it amazing, actually, that we've only really had to consolidate 3 precincts as of this morning. We've had great outreach from the community, and certainly a lot of folks have stepped up that have allowed us to really keep local voting local. And today is the last day for the mail-in and absentee ballots. But that being said, if you don't get applied today, then come out and see us in person on Election Day. Follow all the basic common sense means of social distancing, hand sanitizing. You'll probably see some of our election workers wearing visors. Everybody will be in masks. You'll see a lot of hand sanitizer. You'll see a lot of signs reminding people to be safe. And as we move from the yellow phase to the green phase of reopening, it's important not only at these events but all events moving forward that we remind ourselves, how can we be safe? And let's just use some good common sense out there and some good common courtesy, and let's stay in the green, and we can win this battle one day at a time. So everybody come out on Tuesday, and we're looking forward to a great voter turnout, and looking forward to seeing everyone at the polls.
I think you covered practically everything. Steve, just want to mention, we also have pens available.
Yes.
Take it with you. Yes.
Another big shout out, and I know he's probably not watching because he's probably working, but Kevin Lloyd at Big Spring Spirits, he's been a great supporter of the first responders and providing them with hand sanitizer. Something tells me that later on today we'll be in touch with you, Kevin, to try to procure some more hand sanitizer to make sure that we have all those bases covered on Election Day. So big shout out to him for everything he's done for our community throughout this pandemic. So, there you have it.
Absolutely. Thank you, Commissioner. Okay. Margaret, any executive sessions to report?
Board of Commissioners met in executive session on Friday, May 22nd, from 12:44 PM to 1:05 PM, and again at 2:56 to 3:05 PM.
Thank you. Is there any need for an executive session?
Yes, there is a need for an executive session to discuss a personnel item.
Okay, and we'll do that at the conclusion of our meeting? Okay, all right. Okay, we have the balance of our meeting. Any of the meetings that we're going to be doing on Thursday, May 28th, we'll be doing those via Blue Jeans, and we have a website set up on our county website if anybody would want to join in to any of the remote public meetings that we hold as a board or the other boards and committees we serve on. And again, as Commissioner Dershowitz said, last day to apply is today, and it must be received by our office. The application must be received by our office by 5 p.m. And again, you can do it online as well. We'll see you all next week, either at home if you voted by mail or if you are coming out to vote. Either way, we thank you for participating in our democracy.
Oh, you know, we
Yes,
should
please.
probably, before we leave this subject, because of the large number of ballots and envelopes, and I understand that we just got our letter or envelope opening machine in,
Oh, good.
it will take a little while for us to process all those ballots, not only the ones we receive here at the Willowbank Building, but the ones that have been received by mail. So be patient. I don't think you're going to have the results that evening. I would almost place large wager on that, but I would say that we will be prompt as we can be to make sure that we get those ballots all correctly counted and taken care of. But it's going to be a process of opening those envelopes, sorting everything, and making sure that everything is correctly. And one thing that I will say about our folks in Center County, they have been, our elections staff has been working incredibly long, difficult hours, and we have an elections director in Joyce McKinley who has decades of experience in making sure that we get these ballots counted properly and the elections are run right. And my sincere thank you to all the folks in that office, and all the folks have been brought in to help. Many folks from throughout our county organization are over there now, outside their normal home departments, to make sure that we're going to be ready for Election Day. And this is going to be a test for us, but I think it's one that we're going to pass.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And we've been working very hard, and they've been working even harder. So I mean, I don't know if anybody's seen over there the folks in the room, Evan and Gary, the room of ballots, I guess you could call it, and it's piled high, and so. If you wanted to take a quick peek in, that's only a snapshot. It's only a snapshot of how many we've received back so far. So, and again, we have a website set up, centercountypa.gov/vote-by-mail-data, where you can track on a daily basis how many we've received, how many requests we've received, how many ballots we've sent out, and how many we've returned. And on Election Day, it'll be an undertaking. It'll be quite an operation, but we are ready for the challenge. Ready for the challenge indeed. Okay. Gentlemen, we'll turn the floor over to you for any questions before we go into executive session.
First thing, you mentioned obviously the governor, is, I guess, aware or that we should expect an announcement today. Do you have right now a guarantee that he will honor the request to go green on Friday?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's basically a done deal now, right?
Yes.
The only other follow-up, the solicitor mentioned this earlier, ultimately, the original decision on Friday, did that rest with the governor? He obviously deferred to you in his press conference, but...
I think we should try to go forward. I think no, you're doing your job. I'm doing mine. No. My take, Evan. I'm not trying to, dismiss the question. I'm just saying, what's happened has happened. I think that's but going forward, we're going to strongly advocate that kind of thing doesn't happen. Again, we don't have a county health department. We were all in different places doing our jobs in different ways on that day. And again, it was tough to be able to in such a short amount of time. But we appreciate the heads up. Again, we'll ask for a heads up in the future. But those kind of decisions, they have the larger picture of the data, the contact tracing, the testing, all of those things. They're able to see from a macro picture, and so we'll defer to them. But again, we want to work with them as well. We understand that we may not have agreed how it happened, but we're going to agree that we need to work together in the future.
But the good thing is, we are going to be open on Friday, and all the businesses that need that relief will receive it. And I think, again, I think it's a great thing for our county to be included in that group, and we are thankful for the governor's consideration. So,
And we
Thank you.
just urge the citizens of Center County to show common courtesy. Everybody's under a lot of stress. This is a difficult situation that happens about once every 100 years. Let's show some courtesy to our fellow human beings.
Do you have any concerns or worries that you have lost confidence among the business leaders, the business community of this county?
I believe that through dialogue and the next weeks and months forward, if there's any, so I can't control how people feel about me. I can only learn how I respond to that. And the best way, if people feel like there's questions left unanswered or things that happened that they didn't agree with, I would ask them to look at the record, see what our thought process was on this, see what my thought process was on this, and the actions that I would hopefully take and we would all take over the next few weeks and months ahead would show them that we are committed to them. But again, I can't control what they think, but I think that we can, and Commissioner Higgins has been working on a grant process through the EDA and getting some federal money here, has been a champion through CEDACOG, getting loans provided through that. So there have been many things that we as a board and have been working on and doing throughout the last several weeks. And so again, we'll work forward, and if there is that sense out there, we will try to rebuild it.
You opened this can of worms. Are there any other issues you would be in dispute with in terms of, is it the governor or the county commissioners who should be making the decisions?
The governor. From my standpoint, it's the governor, because we do not have a county health department.
Is there any other issues you see similar dispute in terms of? I assume this is not outlined in the county code, this type of decision you had to make.
It is not. It is not. Well, so his order and the Secretary of Health's order run concurrent in terms of what they have in that order, and we do not have the ability to write an order. Counties who have health departments are able to do that. You saw Erie County do that. They have a health department. They did it prior to the governor, including them in a stay-at-home order. So we do not have the ability to do that, but they ask for our feedback in their decision-making process. Okay, thank you. Okay, we'd look for a motion to adjourn that at 11:04.
I thought we were going to go to.
I'm so sorry. I'm sorry. Yep, that you're absolutely right. Yes.
Motion to go to executive session at 11:04.
second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Okay.
Number of applications